I'm going to show some of the work we do in our office. If I need to explain something, I'll do it. It doesn't work. But I think it's better just to see what's going on the screens. I select a few works of our career. We have been working as architects since 1968. It's 43 years with my partner Martinez Lapena and myself, and we are specialists on generalities. We don't work in any specific field. And we don't find, let's say, hidden territories where we cannot work. We just work in any. We don't have borders or frontiers between what is being called architecture, sometimes engineer, landscape, design, urban design. I mean, it depends on the condition. We just become involved with the problem and we try to do our best. I think it's better to give you readings. It's very small, right, from here. Yeah, okay. Finish? Okay. Well, this is a picture from a Spanish photographer from 19. This is middle of Castilla, and this well, dialogue between the private and the public territory. And you have a shock that is being painted on the walls of the house of this lady, and then the street is also being painted white with wash, and then there is this fragile subtle territory of property that is just probably more to mark where is the angle than by trying to find what is public and what is private, or just this is the kind of world that I think many different societies have been living, where the private life becomes also public at the moment that it's transferred to this, let's call it open spaces. This is the street, but at the same time it becomes a house for a little moment of this man and his bird. It's going to be very difficult to point out at the same time three different screens, and maybe I will do my best from the back. This ambiguity between the territories of architecture and landscape has been always it's not been about something that we wanted us to do, it came just by chance. I was at that moment is 1972, the bishop's architect of the island of Ibiza, where I was born, and I'm still going there. I'm working there too. And it's a summer church. It's a place that's been trying to colonize by very basic elements to define what a sacred space is. I mean, it doesn't have a vault like a classical church, but it has the vault of the church, the pine tree branches. And at the same time, it tries to locate the people, to embrace, just to make it, let's say, away from the noise of next door street, not very crowded, but at the same time to feel that you are in the middle of the landscape, but to say, well, of the trees or the mountain. It means there is only to establish a border where your activity becomes, or the activity becomes different from what it's outside of the wall. There were a lot of things going on, like coming from the I would say Le Corbusier. I mean, if you see there is a bell tower. Well, the problem is there was never a bell because it was so tiny that the priest said, well, it's better just if I use one by hand. That way I can. There is an altar, there is everything. Those pictures were taken last summer. I mean, it's still being working without any problem. It's just they repaint it every year and then it's renewed completely. But the architecture of the island is also the vernacular. It's painted white, or at least washed white, and it fits with, let's say, with the culture of the typical old houses of Ibiza. This is a working, thanks to Google, we can show now things like this. This is in a square in the north of the city of Barcelona, in the city of Girona, and it's a square, a central square called the Square of Constitution. It used to be a space filled up with a factory. It was demolished, but we won the competition. This is from 1982, I think, or no, even 81, and then finished in 1990. The space was filled up with an old factory, absolutely packed. When we won the competition, we had a different project when it was built, because the space that it was impossible to see it. To say we couldn't see hopefully what was the surrounding buildings, that there will be the protagonist of the space. Means there is no one open space without the consideration of the vertical elements that surrounds the flat area. Means when we talk about a square, it's impossible to avoid what the square, why the square is being built that way. Built means how much the vertical needs to compete, probably sometimes with 10 stories, with something that it's only 1 meter deep or high. I mean, this is what it makes very difficult sometimes to design public spaces when already the architecture is there. Many of the squares that we know from 19th century or medieval areas, I don't know if El Campo di Siena was built completely at the same time. For sure, there is a problem of water, runoff water, but at least all the buildings they compete that space together with the flat, or the flat in that case, inclined area in Siena. Here, we were surrounded by quite bad buildings, but we find out that they were there when the factory was demolished. There is a parking space underground. It's from here, the cars are in this area, and while that one, the space has underneath earth. That means that was the area where we could plant trees. But while the factory was demolished, we finally decided to change the project and build a huge part, let's say a huge strong limit, to compete with the traffic around. And you see the traffic is here, it's very intense. And those buildings are much better quality. The old Bank of Spain doesn't work anymore. And all buildings of the closer to the medieval center, and here new buildings of 10 stories high. That we want just to protect the people on top of the square from this active area around, because cars also come along this street. The entrance are here of the parking garage, entrance and exit, entrance. And the square has the name of Constitution from 1978, and there is a monument that I think is why we won the competition, that it's a girl that was born the day that the King of Spain signed the Constitution. And that's the podium. It's huge in comparison of the square, but it also helps the ventilation of the parking. This is the old city with the Gothic and neoclassical facade. And then the border becomes a very solid tectonic element that's made out of concrete, very well done. And only two materials, bronze and the concrete. Even you can see here, that part was never finished the way we wanted, but still working. And the trees are located in very specific points where the huge lamps are allowed to bring light to the surface of the activity. Here you see the concrete has at the end where it's more fragile with this kind of geometry or volumes. I mean, they ended with points are very, those pieces, for instance, are 1.5 meters long. It's like when you have a teeth, when your mouth has problems with the teeth and then you change it one. They used to be changed by gold pieces, and now this is the same thing. But, sorry. This is the way how you see the protection of the limits of on a legislative area of cars, the bronze elements, the lamps. This one is at the level of it's 1 meter high. That means we just cut the point just to avoid problems with the eyes of the children. This is the way you can see that there is a slope going down, and on the slope, because it was up 4%, we couldn't keep the gravel. It's a very tiny gravel, and then it's why it's being paved with concrete with 3 holes. Those lamps were designed by ourselves on a previous park in Barcelona. This is the podium. Also, we designed a fence, which is where total design, let's say, of everything that was happening. Benches are quite uncomfortable, but they are more, I don't know, but you see sometimes people sitting there.
They're very tired.
Yeah, this is the way you see the square from the area on the top of the parking, with a figure of a rhomboidal shapes with green and gray concrete, and with the elements that come out like if they were pumped by the underground surface or activity. The Bank of Spain is that building, and those are the buildings that they are really the most important elements of the space. It means you see, you cannot avoid them. It means you cannot compete. We just need to establish a conversation as better as possible. There is also a fountain, but fountains are always problems in towns. Sometimes the fountains doesn't work. This fountain, it says Plaza de la Constitución and the 4 rivers. There is a slope going down, and the water runs into these bronze gaps. And here, when the fountain doesn't work, at least you can read the name of the square. And in front of the Bank of Spain, there are 3 huge coins. This is 1.20 meters, and establishing a relation between the coins that were made in the city of Girona in medieval and Renaissance times to compete with the central bank of Spain. This is the city of Ibiza. This is the cathedral. This is the Almudaina, the medieval castle. Those are the Renaissance walls in very, very good shape. I mean, it was a war machine that never was put on just to work against something. And we were doing some projects inside of the castle, and one of them was to organize a new access to the castle. The castle is above the square, the cathedral square, which is here. And there used to be a ramp before 1780 that was arriving from the main space, the old main space of the town, towards the gate between the two medieval towers. The gate is behind this thing, and it was a little street was open to avoid leaking into the cathedral, and a new passage was open towards the Renaissance walls. And because in 1973 the castle was given to the town, it was transformed from a military place to an urban place. They're still working now. It's just now doing a hotel, run by the Ministry of Tourism, and the door or the gate was completely closed to the presence of that means it makes sense for military access, and we changed completely this element just to transform into a much easier access. And let's say we built a new gate. The door that it's here, in a way, comes down through the stair and becomes a new door on the square. It's just to establish how you can bring a building that is completely, let's say, blind to the town, to the public spaces, into something that would belong again to the city. And this is the project, made out of the same sandstone of the building, where you go up and up, you cross your fingers one on top of the other. This is the way how you arrive up there. This is Toledo, Spain. Toledo is a town, Ibiza, Toledo, and are well heritage cities. And one of the problems of this town is that the city is very, very dense. Most of the big buildings are convents. This is the river Tajo, and the city is above the river around between 50 and 40 meters. The arrival from Madrid is that road. The medieval walls are here. And because of density and the difficulty of having cars moving inside of the town, most of the residents left and going to live on the flat area, much easier to be organized for traffic, parkings, houses, etc. This is, and there was a plan organized by a professor from Barcelona to establish a system of parkings and a system of vertical communications from the lower part to the upper part of the town. This is let's say the lower part, that level, it's 39 meters from that point to that one. Those are the medieval walls. And we were asked to design a parking garage and a system for pedestrians to arrive to the top of the town. There was a big discussion between the authorities, the local authorities, and we went to Italy, to Urbino, to know how we could organize a new system. There were possibilities as tunnels and elevators, but always this thing, it's very uncomfortable. It produces an effect of, let's say, danger, and we finally agreed all together to establish a system of 2 escalators, going one up and one up and down, and a normal stair next to it, with a cantilever roof that follows the slope of the let's say the hill, which is a hill made out of remains from centuries of construction work, and then where the cantilever holds earth and and some vegetation on top to establish a continuation of the. This is the way how you see it from above. There is only a very, very tiny space covered without, let's say, it has a roof. And the parking is here, and you arrive here, those are the medieval walls. The parking is on the ground. And you come up here to the top of the hill by 6 escalators. We, as you can see, the escalators are twisted, not because of a problem of, let's say, contemporary twisted geometry, but because when you go down from here and you have 6 escalators, you absolutely will feel sick if you see all together on a straight line. And that way you come up and down, discovering fragments of the landscape and having a completely different view of this. This is the way. It's a kind of a cut on the land. The walls were not allowed to touch them, as we came underneath them. And all this green area that it was just herb, we just keep it the same way. We didn't want us to design any specific thing because it was really enough with let's say with the escalators. Well, the problem is that the building upstairs is not really a great thing. Probably it's one of the ugliest buildings in town. The city has a color like it's a marzipan color, yellow. All the bricks are yellow, and we had on the concrete material the color implanted inside, and it's a kind of a green, yellow color too, and it becomes this element that cuts the mountain to arrive to a point where you have gates and you have control, etc. This is the way how you go down, and you have always the feeling that the earth or the mountain, you are underneath it with this cantilever that has that slope, just following the above slope of the earth. This is the space where the arrival, when you find also the runoff water comes here, because there is a lot of water coming along the new construction, and there is a normal stairs that goes from here up to the other side of the street above. It has a kind of a military, looks like a construction for the Second World War, with cannons and so on. On top you have well, the gates with some elements that follows the geometry, and it becomes a balcony towards the new flat city next to the plain, the river plain. And at night it just has this strange light cut. We answered a competition in the city of Teruel, which is also in the middle of Spain, which is in Aragon. And there was a problem how to connect in this area here. The lower part is the train station. Well, train stations are always on the flat areas, while medieval cities probably are on top of the hills because they need to be protected and surrounded by walls. And there was a very difficult situation about also 25 meters or almost 30, 28 I think, to arrive to the top of the town. And there were already stairs, existing stairs, but they needed to connect with a mechanical system to the train station for the future high-speed train towards the upper part of the town. We lost because we were a little bit, but innovation. But it doesn't work. Thank you. I have batteries here. Do you have batteries? Okay. Well, we lost because we designed a system where escalators and stairs, similar of the one we did in Toledo, but without the mountain. That means it's just a system of, you can see here how crazy we became, just trying to solve the problem of the different two levels. And I think David Chipperfield won just because he designed just an elevator with an opening here, arriving to that point. I think it was much cheaper, much easier, and less, say, I don't know. This is a work that it's been going on since 1983. We're still working. This is the city of Palma de Mallorca. This is the wall that remains, the only wall that remains of what used to be the walls that surround it. As you can see, those are the promenades. And at the beginning of the 20th century, the walls were demolished because the city needed to be extended towards the plain, and was the only way to enlarge the town. While here, there was the need to enlarge the town wasn't possible because in front of it you had the sea. That means there was the walls remained just because there was no. If that area, this is the water in the Mediterranean Sea. If that thing would be earth, will be then the walls will be demolished. I'm sure now that all those things will be possible to touch, but at that time they were brave and they were doing things probably absolutely necessary. Now, any small piece of stone that you find on archaeological remains, this is another territory, but here I haven't heard anything, but archaeology is also something that the archaeologists always want to go down, while architects will always want to go up. And there is sometimes big conflicts, but it's necessary to have good conversations. This is 1 kilometer long. Now we are working in this basket. There used to be military houses. They were demolished 2 years ago. And that area was a military space. It means it was a closed space for the town. And also in 1973, it was given to the city. And at that moment, that space became the balcony to the ocean. A balcony with an architecture completely finished. There was nothing else to do than just clean a little bit, swap, put some pieces of furniture, open some holes, restore some elements. I mean, it's a work of, let's say, to accept what is there and just to help what is there, to go from what used to be military into a public space. Help. Should I go to the computer? No? Okay, this is a park that came out. The water used to arrive to the limit of the wall. Besides, before to have the red sign, how much longer I can talk? Who is okay. And they built this park in front of the walls, and I think we are not responsible for it. And you will see some different moments. Every 3 or 4 years, there is some money coming from the Ministry of Public Works, and the agreement with the city. That means also it depends on the color of the politicians. And to have those agreements, that sometimes is very difficult, but at the end, well, because now we are in so bad situation, I think there is a little fragment to be finished in the future, but I think this future will take a long, long time. This is the basket. The cathedral, for instance, probably one of the most beautiful cathedrals, Gothic cathedrals in Spain. with the work of Gaudi and his assistant at the altar, the main altar of the means. They were very important neighbors when we started work. There were 2 ramps going down from the upper bastion. This is the corridor where you have the views towards the ocean. We planned a canopy of 50 by 25 meters long. We replanted new palm trees. We changed the arrival of the 2 ramps, and there isn't a stage here. There was a train opening, a tunnel connecting the station, the central station from here towards the central part of the town, and we take the advantage of the tunnel to open a tunnel inside and to avoid a dead end here. We built a new stair with the remains of the elements that we restored. And it's a canopy because in summertime it's very hot and there is no air coming through. I mean, it becomes really a very important element in terms of comfort of the users, but also it's a very thin element that doesn't disturb the presence of the architecture and the atmosphere. This is the Bishop's Palace with some of the works of Gaudi too. This is the tunnel I was talking about. The tunnel, it's a fake perspective, like the ones by Borromini in Palazzo Spada in Rome, where when you come in, the perspective looks shorter. When you go out, it doesn't matter because you see the ocean or the lake, and in the middle of the tunnel there is a hole, a quarter of a sun, of a light, a quarter of a wheel light. We designed a pave for all the promenade. And it has the shape of the bastion. It follows the geometry, exactly the geometry, in the way that it becomes an element that's sandstones that are all it's the stone of the whole wall, and also we use it for the new elements. Again, thank you. Well, the problem with this, the problem and the quality of the sandstone by the one in Ibiza is that after 10 years, it becomes very old and it fuses into the existing buildings in the way that it's difficult to know how old the new things are. And I think it's a very, excuse me, you can see here all the remains of restored elements that they become the handrail, like a kind of a chaos handrail, but sometime probably in the future, who knows, someone will change it to something else. We didn't want us to keep this shape going down. We thought it was too easy. The canopy produces an effect of shadows unexpected. That means this is gratis. And also, it has a kind of transparency, and you can see the buildings above. It produces, it avoids the big shocks with winds. That means the air can go through. It has tensors, sure to be attached to the wall. Even the pavement is being changed to allow a small slope for seats and the stage. And at the end, what happens is that you don't have the feeling that anything has happened here. It means it keeps, in a way, the atmosphere, the soul, the ADN of that space. Another bastion was more simply, let's say, solved with new palm trees, new, let's say, not very, very comfortable benches, but you can see it. And that's the end of the area that we finished 5 years ago, with some, those are the elements, always they are made out of a more solid stone to avoid fragility of of erosion of the end elements. You can see here that the buildings, they used to be the last bastion, and this is the way we are working right now here. It's under construction, will be finished in 6 months. We are not going to do this thing, we're just working on all the ramps just to provide a very easy open space to avoid dark areas where you cannot pass through. You always can go very easily from all the areas on top of the bastion to avoid that, and the insecurity, where that is something that everybody feels very concerned. This is a little square behind us, the church of the island of Formentera. Quanto? 10 minutes. The island of Formentera, there used to be a very tiny cinema outdoor. This is it's the island next to Ibiza. It was a very modest place. That was the first building with the house of the prison top, the old city hall, and we renovated all this area. Again, thank you. Well, we just built, the budget was very low, and a small garden with new walls, taking the advantage of existing gardens. This is the church, this is the back area, and we planted some fig trees because the island doesn't rain so much. And then we wanted just to have the fig trees to become what they happen. This is the way how they keep the fig trees to be avoid the destruction by the animals. And then they have poles, and then you can get the figs, fruit. And we wanted something like this, but they almost remain like this after 5 years. I think we need to change the soil again, because that was a very modest project in terms of budget, but also we wanted a very modest thing because it was to be happen on very modest and city, well, let's call village atmosphere. The vegetation, it's the local vegetation to avoid to use almost the water, besides the water of rain, almost nothing. And it's just all this geometrical system that they look like fragments of all buildings that they never existed. They don't exist anymore. This is the way it's being used now. The fig trees are used as on a flea market, a hippie market. And adios. Sorry. Sometimes we change a lot of the public spaces, just designing something that is sprayed all over the town. And this is a bus stop in Barcelona. It's been there for 20 years, and there are at least, I would say, 800 pieces. It's a table. It's probably the cheapest bus stop on the market. It's quite resistant, and it's like a table. In a way, it comes from a design by Achille Castiglioni, the tables that we saw years ago. And at the same time, again, and also you can stay underneath the table, you can stay on top of the table when the Barcelona team wants, that is quite often. And this is the city of Barcelona. Well, the diagonal street, and this is the plan of the 19th century. At the end, there was nothing to happen, to be expected to happen, and then the diagonal was opened after 150 years and became an area more public on top of the water treatment plant and incinerator. All the toilet of the town was located here, and this area now, there is a convention center, the forum building by Estefan de Moron, hotels of 4 stars and one of 5 stars. I mean, it's the same way that happened when the kitchens and the toilets were put inside of the house, because there were systems of ventilation to avoid the bad smells. This is a huge area of involved a lot of money, but very fast built. In 3 years and a half, the project and the construction was finished. The diagonal comes here, and we were responsible for the public open space that is at least 10 hectares. And this is the top of the sewage plant, the city with the buildings, and then the ocean here. And with 2 canopies or cover space with photovoltaic cells, 10,000 square meters. And this is the surface made out of a patchwork of different colors of asphalt. Let's not forget that underneath we have a factory. The other factories are here. And there are only the green areas are the ones that have earth underneath. There's one are only grass, but the trees are only planted in the areas where it's most possible to have earth underneath. This is the way how it looks. We wanted just to design a ha-ha. When you walk here, the handrail stays at the same level of the working areas. That's the thing. You can see the factory chimneys on the back. New huge stage or bleachers, new benches, new canopies, a new area for exhibitions, and it's huge. It's 10 hectares of public space, and this is again. Thank you. Thanks. And this is one. This is 120 meters long. The beams are 4 meters by 3. Well, it's big, but it's not uncomfortable. The photovoltaic cells are here, and you can arrive. The horizon is being cut by the lower point. It means there is dialogue between. This is something that was designed in purpose. It's a twisted table, and you can see the town at the end. Oh, this is the best thing of the landscape we have done. It was the temporary thing in the Canary Islands, in the island of Hierro. It was an installation for a Biennale of Art, Architecture, and Landscape, and we decided, because it's an island where a lot of immigrants come from Venezuela, where they went at the end of the 18th, 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, and they have money, and they think that they can do anything on the landscape, and there are a lot of things not going well, and we decided to design this. This is a Photoshop thing, and it looks more like this fat obelisk man. But we wanted to put a satellite that could compete with the NASA. The entrance of the port, and not the airport and the port, where you have this strange element that it's the one who watches for the protection of the landscape of the island. Everything was built out of a scratch of what remains in town, in the island, and nothing was brought besides the photovoltaic cells. At night, the first night, people were scared because they didn't know exactly what was going on there. The windmill works, everything was working, and there was music, there was smoke, and we were giving to the children, to the schools, and the visitors. This is it used to be our, I think, the Spanish driver license, and we were given penalties like what we have now. They take points of your 12 points that you have, and when you do some traffic mistakes, and they take you the license when you have 12. I mean, we were given 2 points if you were just building something illegal, or leaving some garbage illegally, or just burning some part of the wood. And as much as many square meters you were destroying, are more points you were
give. And then at the end, if you arrived to 12 or 10, you were expelled from the island and sent back to Venezuela. Thank you very much.